Alright, hello everybody, and welcome to Whimsically Wicked, a reading duet. My name is Haley, I am the whimsical half.
And my name is Daria, and I'm the Wicked half.
Hi!
Hi.
It's been a few weeks.
I know we haven't filmed in a while, it feels like.
How are you doing? How are things?
Good. I'm still really deep into a fanfic hole.
You've tried to get out of that so many times.
I know, but then I switched to Drary fanfic, and now I have a whole new oyster.
Draco and Harry?
Yeah.
Dude.
I'm having so much fun. The enemies to lovers is just so good.
I guess it's a good setup for it. We started with Hermione, with Manacled, and you went down, I don't know, 18, 19 fanfic holes. You read an entire rewrite of the Harry Potter series.
That was a Drary one.
That's a dreary one.
Yeah.
When did you get into dreary?
2.5 weeks ago.
And how many have you read?
7, 8, 9, about 13.
No, dude.
Yeah. That rewrite, though, by far the best one I've read. It might be the greatest fanfic I've ever read.
Oh my goodness.
It was just so well done. So well done.
Okay, well, you gotta explain to us what that one was about.
Okay, so the series is called The Mirror of Isidoru.
Okay.
And it's supposed to be a sister mirror to The Mirror of Isrid from Philosopher's Stone. And basically what happens is it starts out about a year after the war. Draco just got out of Azkaban, and he's like drunk and having a fit in his basement. And he finds this mirror, and he starts like throwing hexes at it because he's looking at himself in the mirror and he hates himself and whatever. And then somehow he falls through the mirror and ends up in his 11-year-old body the day he receives his Hogwarts invite. And it basically replays the entire series from start to finish with Draco having all the foreknowledge, but only Draco's foreknowledge of what's happening. So he'll have notes like, idiots go into Chamber of Secrets. Professor doesn't come back out the same. Other two somehow survived. And then he ends up going through all of it with them because he decides to become like best friends with them. Like Hermione and him are BFFs. And the other two are just like her hangers on. And like they all end up being friends, and then obviously Harry and Draco end up getting together.
Right.
But that's like 5 books in. It takes slow burn to a whole new level. Because Draco, like even in the first book, he's like, I love Harry. He's out
Right off the
because
bat.
he's already
because he's already lived it all.
Yeah, so he already knows like he's got a thing for Harry, and he's like, no, we're gonna see if we can fix this, because the main reason and one of the things he came back is because he's like, I want to save Severus.
Oh.
So he like, and they have this cute bond that they didn't have in the original series where he's like his dad but not his dad. So cute. Anyway, it is the best thing I've ever read.
Are you still on that fanfic train?
That one?
Well, you finished the series.
Yeah.
But did you continue with dreary fanfiction after you finished that series?
Yeah, I read one last night after the book for this podcast. Started one this morning. I think I read another one on the weekend.
I wish I brought an intervention flag with me.
Fanfic.
I think we need to have one.
Well, it's this, or it's gonna be like hockey romances. So.
Yeah, but you already went through that. I almost had an intervention for you for that one too.
Yeah. I don't know.
Your hyperfixation knows no bounds.
None
it's
at all.
So impressive.
I don't know what I'm getting off of this either, because there was a whole.
Well, are you getting off on this?
Oh yeah, having a great time. One of the ones I read this weekend was just smut, and I was like, I don't know if this is even too much for me.
Oh my god.
It was cute though. They actually said a concubine spell on Draco. He had to do everything Harry told him. But they had like the most healthy relationship I've ever seen in a written book too. So it like wasn't really icky. It was actually kind of cute, but also smutty.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I don't know. Harry Potter fanfiction is so popular, but part of the reason I love Harry Potter so much is for the nostalgia, and it makes me feel like a kid again, and I see all of those characters as 11-year-old kids, so I don't know if I could get into that. You have to not be able to look at the series the same way anymore.
Oh no, not at all. I will give the author, I cannot remember, I think it's like Bridge Star or something for the Mirror Visitor series, does a really good job of it because like they are kids.
Mm-hmm.
And Draco, let's be real, hasn't matured a day past like 13 anyway.
Even though he's already lived up until
Yeah.
17. Yeah,
Like
fair
even in the
enough.
books, he's still a child.
Yes.
So it's like maturity wise, it's like not that far off all the way through either. So he
Okay.
kind of like grows up with them again
Again, okay, okay.
properly. That one was really, really cute. It didn't get weird until, or smutty until book 6, I think.
Yeah, well, that's good. That checks
Yeah,
out.
appropriately aged smut.
Have you read anything not fan fiction?
Yes, I've been doing my arcs. I
Right.
had a hockey romance I did for Danny Galaro, which was Unbreakable. That was pretty good. I have another arc on the go in between books for Blake Black for her Soul Coded
Mm.
series. And then there was something else in there and I can't remember what. And then obviously the podcast books, which were kind of fan fiction too, but
Yeah, those were fan fiction.
not the same caliber of fan fiction.
You're like going back to the 14, 15-year-old Daria just spending her time on AO3
I know.
in the dark depths of the internet.
Having a great time. I'm
Well, I'm
dragging a
glad to
couple
hear.
people along with me too. It's been fun.
Good, I'm glad to hear.
Yeah. Well, because you read that one book I saw a bunch of content for on our Instagram.
I read The Library at Mount Shar by Scott Hawkins, and I had an absolute time with that. This is maybe the worst example of me going in blind to a book that I can think of because it was the weirdest book I have ever read.
Oh.
So it is kind of a fantasy novel, and I'm a little bit hesitant with spoilers here because there's a lot of things that I think could be considered spoilers, but the premise is this girl meets this boy in a bar, and she is from this library in kind of the middle of nowhere. They call it Garrison Oaks, and she's a librarian at this library. Um, and there's 12 of them, and each of them have their own catalog that they're allowed to study, and you're not allowed to explore outside of your catalog.
Okay.
So for hers, it's languages. She can speak Spanish and French, but she can also speak to tigers and other animals and to dead people and things like that. And then there's one for just violence and murder, and then there's another for necromancy, and there's another for healing. Like there's just all of these different ones, and they are all governed, I guess, by Father. And Father is sort of this ominous figure who nobody really knows, but Father is missing. And so these 12 librarians are going searching for Father. And over the course of time, you figure out how Father is treating them and that they were orphans when he first took them in. And then there was this random tiger who nobody really knew what it was about. And then there's like ties to the real world and there's like weird magic. And when I tell you that this book was confusing up until the last 50 pages,
Mm.
no idea what was going on. It sent me into a whirlwind of spirals. Oh my god, dude. And it was really good. I had a few problems with it. I thought that it was a little bit disjointed at times, but it was really good. It just threw me through a loop. You never knew what was going on. You never knew what was going to happen. It kind of just like tossed you in a million different directions, and it was like, I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was 400 pages of absolute chaos.
It's a decent length too. Damn.
Yeah, it was. And then it was I wasn't doing a very good job of explaining it to Jake either because we would be on the phone and I would be telling him what happened and he would get increasingly stressed out about what I was telling him and he was like, "But what does that mean?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know what I'm reading, but this is what's happening." And he's like, "It doesn't make sense." And I was like, "I know." So that was like the most chaotic example of me just like going in blind. But I
Yeah.
don't even know if I knew what it was about that it would have helped.
Like it doesn't sound like it would have.
No. I've heard really good things though. I'm trying to think if I've really read anything else. I'm going through Way of Kings again. Have you started your reread yet?
Yeah, I'm doing listen, and I think I'm probably 10 hours in, give or take.
Oh, that's not bad.
I'm listening at 2.0 speed though, because this would be like the sixth time I've read or
Got it.
listened to this book.
Yeah,
So
I'm doing half listen, half read, and definitely listening at a pretty high speed just because I'm rereading it too. But man, I can't wait for the rest of that series.
I know I'm excited, and I don't remember very much from Rhythms of War because I haven't reread that one since it came out. I
Yeah.
only read it the one time, so I'll probably take my time with that one and then speed through the other three.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm in a book club that we're trying to decide what book we're actually going to read. And so everybody's doing nominations for the books. And one person put one of their nominations in, and they were like, Way of Kings by Brian Sanderson. And I don't
Criminal?
know if I can call this person out for a couple of reasons. First of all, Brian Sanderson, that is a felony.
Yeah,
You obviously already
crime.
don't know
What's happening here?
what this book is. Secondly, Way of Kings is not a book club book.
No, that's 1,000 pages of high fantasy that also, at some point, one, you have to read the rest of them because it cliffhangs.
Yeah.
And then also, there's like 7 books before that.
Yeah, Mistborn, so that's 3. And then you have Elantris and Warbreaker. And then you have 3 or 4 short stories, I think.
Yeah, plus, like, you are probably gonna need Alloy of Law.
Yeah, at some point.
And that 5 book series? 4 book series.
Anyways, so I was mad about that. And I didn't call them out in the group chat. I don't know if I should. Or if I should just like message the person and be like, don't put that in there because
That's not what this is.
yeah, that's not gonna be fun for anybody. And then I'm gonna be pissed because then we'll have like 12 people recommended to read this book and everybody's gonna hate it because nobody has time to finish it. Nobody knows what's going on. And it's not like half these people haven't read in 10 years.
Oh,
They're trying to
no.
get back into reading.
You know, Way of Kings is like a seasoned athlete kind of reading game.
Yeah. So that's been my reading life for the past few weeks. I've been
Nice.
consuming a lot of content because I wasn't going to do Rings of Power.
Yeah.
Okay. I watched one episode of the first season like 2 years ago when it first came out. And I was like, I don't know about this. And then I had a friend be like, it's good, especially the last 3 episodes of the second season. So you should watch it. And me and Jake were both on the same page. So we decided, okay, for our friend, we will watch this TV show. It's so bad, dude.
I've only seen the first season when it first came out, so I don't even remember that much of it.
Well, that was bad. And then it got worse, in my opinion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this TV series, and actually, I want, because we watched Venom Last Dance last weekend too.
Yep.
And it was also dog shit.
It was so bad. I'm pretty sure I heard Bryce tell his friends downstairs it was one of the worst movies he's ever seen, and he watches absolute drivel.
It blows my mind because people are liking that movie.
I know. I want to know who these people are. Like, I want to know what the redeeming qualities were that some people saw in this because they went right over my head.
Right. And so that's why I'm going to bucket it with Rings of Power and Venom because let's just say spoilers for both of these. I feel like with Venom Last Dance, I'm not really concerned about it because Tom Hardy has been very vocal about this being his last Venom movie,
As he should.
as he should. And the movie sucks, so I don't want to encourage anybody to go watch it.
Yeah, wait until you can get it for free.
Yeah. And then with Rings of Power, I feel like everyone who wants to see it has seen it. And I don't even know if spoilers are relevant with it because I don't think anybody actually knows what happened in there. It was so disjointed that it wasn't really a story to begin with,
Oh,
in my
joy.
opinion. So, anyways, both of these shows had such crap plots.
Yes.
They made absolutely no sense. And I feel like we're seeing this continuous situation with TV and movies and things like that nowadays, especially with really, really beloved content and franchises, where they're putting these plot points in just for the sake of moving the plot around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like with Venom, there was the one scene that like pissed me off to no end. So the whole premise was that Tom Hardy or Eddie Brock and Venom are like together, and they have this codex that is being searched for by Null, who is a like fan favorite.
Yeah, god level, more powerful than Thanos villain.
Yeah, which sounds epic, right? By the way,
Should be epic.
guess what he did in the movie?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Sat in a chair and talked a little bit. He also, my brother and I had the exact same thought because we're both video game nerds. He looked like Blizzard had rendered him for a video game. Like the quality on that was not good.
Yeah, he was voiced by Andy Serkis, which I didn't notice at all.
I didn't notice that either.
And it was just CGI'd.
Yeah.
Effects.
And it was like, I swear they copy paste Arthas from World of Warcraft, and we're just like, good enough.
Here you go. Oh my god. So he was searching for the codex, which was stored inside of Eddie and Venom. And as long as Eddie or Venom was alive, the codex was up for grabs. And anytime that Venom went full form into Eddie, Null's little aliens could find them.
Yeah.
So, first question, is this a new development? Because we've had 2 movies so far.
No mention of this once.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's been Venom many times, and we've seen no aliens come for it.
He died in the first movie to make the codex.
Yeah.
And then, like, they were like, oh yeah, like they're hunting for it and everything. And no one was concerned about these things beforehand because they were crazy. Those things survived 99% of things they threw at it. They tore it to pieces. They ran it through a jet engine, and somehow an acid bath
that they had the whole time is what did it. Oh my god.
It's painful.
So there's kind of new development that was also a thing during the second movie, but never came up during the second movie because it didn't fit this plot in the second movie, is now a thing, and they're basically unkillable monsters that are coming after them anytime that Eddie Brock becomes full Venom, which means that you've just taken our favorite part of Venom, which is when Venom becomes full Venom, and said, you can't do that anymore. But they still need to find a way for that alien to find Venom. So what do? We'll find random reasons for Venom to become Venom. And guess what one of those fucking reasons is? They find cameo Chinese lady from the first movie. What's her name again?
I think it's Mrs. Chen.
Mrs. Chen from the first movie. Fun cameo. But do they find her after searching for her for a while? No, she's just randomly at the first casino that they walk into. And what does she want to do? She wants to dance. And so does Venom. And because Venom can't keep his jiggy inside, he has to become full Venom to dance with Mrs. Chen.
And bring all the indestructible the single one at this point, indestructible aliens to the middle of Las Vegas.
And you might think, oh, well, maybe they didn't know at the time that turning into full Venom would attract these aliens. No, they knew.
The whole time. Venom knew immediately. He's like, oh no, that's this thing. Here's the entire lore behind it. We can't do this anymore. And then proceeds to keep doing it.
So it's just like, it was so bad. And people just are just like, no, this is great. I love this. Like, what do they love about it? I think the only redeeming quality that I have for Venom is that I do like the relationship between Venom and Eddie.
Yeah.
And that is the reason that anybody has liked Venom. The other 2 movies weren't that good, other than the fact that Tom Hardy is awesome.
Yes.
And he's very good at having this, like, relationship. So you could see that heartfelt. They had some decent banter every once in a while, even though the writing was, like, kind of dog shit.
Yeah, the writing was bad.
But he did a good job at, like, playing the character and having these moments with him. And, again, you know that one of them is going to die, but, like, as soon as you find out that the only way to get rid of this codex is for one of them to die, their job is to protect. Like, that has been their whole scenario. Like, we will be a protector. It took you 2 hours, 90 minutes, I guess. 90 minutes to decide, like,
which one of you is going to die? Well, endangering literally everyone around you the whole way through.
Yeah. And then there were so many things that weren't followed up on either, because, like, Strickland, the actor, he was in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
They threw him in the trailer, and everybody was like, whoa, we're getting a multiverse here. Like, this is your teaser that he's going to come back. And they were just like, just kidding.
Yeah, different character, totally different. No connections at all to the multiverse.
They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then this random guy who Strickland was talking to the whole movie that never got followed up on, he was like the decision maker for this secret army who had his back to the camera the whole time in this ominous camera room.
Yeah, no one explained that. It didn't make sense. There's so many things that
So
bothered
why
me.
do people think it's a good movie? I don't get it.
I don't get it either. The acting was also really bad. Obviously, Tom Hardy, impeccable, worked well with what he was given. Everyone around him was painful to watch.
Painful. It was terrible.
Like it looked like someone had cue cards up and not like SNL style. Like I'm giving a presentation style, and they're just talking, and I was like,
Yeah.
you have no emotions or intonation in your nothing.
Well, and the doctor, who was a terrible actor, it was so weird because she had this whole backstory where she was running on the beach with her brother and then they got struck by lightning and then the brother died. Okay, that never got
Yeah,
whatever. Now she has like a little trickle in her hand. And we finally see a really cool montage of all of these symbiotes
fighting.
jumping into humans to fight. Super cool, right? Scream, who is one of the symbiotes who went into that lady doctor,
Mm-hmm.
she got like a couple of lines. She got really cool and all of those things. And you know that they're going to continue this symbiote relationship as we go into more Marvel. So we know that it's going to continue. So obviously, some of them have to survive, right? So Scream, who's getting all of this like character development, and we're really like developing an attachment. We're like, okay, great. I would like to see more Scream. That
Yeah,
sounds great to me.
she's great. The actress for her wasn't bad. Yeah,
No, why don't we kill her off?
immediately.
This doctor who's a terrible actor who has a little tingle in her hand. Um, Agony, who was in that little like
Yeah.
bottle, she's gonna connect to the bad actor doctor, and then she's gonna have this little tingle, right? And then she's gonna have super speed. You know what is very interesting? Agony in the comic books has a superpower of being able to control acid, which is so interesting because instead of using this really cool character that people were excited to see from the comics, cough cough agony, they waited until after the battle,
Post acid.
post acid to bring agony out, gave her super speed as a superpower, and then just killed Venom in the after acid bath because they needed to kill Venom. It's just inserting plot points for the sake of it.
And I'm sorry, but have we learned nothing from DC's shit show that was The Flash about speedsters? We're all over speedsters. Unless it's Quicksilver, I don't want to see them in the MCU.
It really made no sense and it was lazy. And then Rings of Power suffered from the same thing. I'll try to be really quick about here because I could probably spend an hour complaining about this. But already you had the wrong rights to the movie. They have a $1 billion budget. It's about 100 to 150 million per season. Huge budget. They bought the wrong rights.
Yeah.
So they're trying to do the second age without all the rights to the actual lore. And what I will say about this is that Lord of the Rings fans, like actual Lord of the Rings fans, the ones who have read all the source material, we know everything about it. We want to see that source material on screen.
Mm-hmm.
We don't care about spoilers. I'll tell you that right now. If we see Anatar come out, we know who Anatar is.
Yeah.
I don't care that that is going to ruin some big reveal for me because I want to see Anatar do his thing of the things that I already know are going to happen. So first of all, scrap that. It's not fan service to make Sauron into a completely random character so that we don't get the reveal because we're going to be pissed once that reveal comes.
Yeah, because it's not how it's supposed to be.
Exactly. So this was basically fan fiction, but like now it's hate fiction because all the fans are pissed.
Mm-hmm.
And then second of all, they used characters that we all knew. Galadriel was the main character, right?
Yeah.
Galadriel at this point in the Second Age is thousands of years old. She is older than the sun and the moon. She has ruled kingdoms. She has led armies into battle. Why is she a whiny 11-year-old?
She was so annoying. So annoying.
Why does she not care about anybody around her? Why has her like need for justice and her resentment overpowered everything else? If you were like thousands of years old at this point,
Yeah, with all that life experience to back you.
Yeah.
Which, like, goes into that weird romance thing we always talk about for, like, the huge age gaps in people where, like, you just get stunted at some point, but, like, that's not how Token works.
It's not how Tolkien works at all. And, like, it's just such bad fan service to be like, oh, this woman who has so much life experience is just going to be this way.
For no reason.
Yeah. And they did the exact same thing. You can find literal hours on the internet, like hundreds of thousands of hours on the internet explaining why this didn't work. So I'll leave you to that because I probably watched like 20 hours of content about why it sucks. Don't watch it though because I don't support this whole situation. Um but it is still the top 5 Amazon TV series of all time.
Top 5?
Top 5 behind Reacher season 2 and Fallout. A few other series
I'm
obviously,
assuming The
but
Boys is up there
Boys has to
somewhere.
be up there. Top 5. Why do people like this garbage?
I'm assuming they just don't know Token past the or the movies.
But even then, like the show was disjointed. Things were just happening that didn't make sense. The timelines were really confusing. You had no sense of time. You want to hear how they did the Gandalf reveal?
Oh, yes.
Oh my
Because I
god.
didn't watch
So
that.
so you know in the first episode, you watched the full first season?
Yeah.
So you kind of know who Gandalf is at this point, right? Like it was
Yeah.
pretty obvious. They did a lot of the same phrases and all of these things. So the Tolkien fans, we all were hoping that they were going to be the Blue Wizards. And the Blue Wizards are a piece in Tolkien lore that is not really well developed. Tolkien never really did. But there are 5 Istari. You have Saruman, you have Gandalf, you have Radagast, and then you have 2 Blue Wizards. The 2 Blue Wizards went off into the east, and there are pieces of lore that one of them had gathered like some followers and were trying to fight evil in the east, and then the other one was kind of like a cult following, but they were trying to basically go against Sauron in the east, and there's just not a lot of context behind it. So all of us Lord of the Rings fans were really hoping that this wizard that had come down was going to be one of the Blue Wizards because we wanted to know more about it.
Yeah. And open ended. You can make up whatever the fuck you want for that Blue Wizard because no one knows what's happening.
You're not going to piss anybody off. But then as we kept going, you got more and more of Gandalf. Like you were like, this is probably Gandalf. um, so Gandalf is not actually his real name either. It's Oberyn. Oberyn. One sec.
Something like that. I feel like they broke fanfic rule #1, which I've been learning so much about now that I read so much fanfic. Where like in Harry Potter fanfic, especially ones around Draco, Blaze Zambini and Theo Knott are always really major characters because they're so underdeveloped in the books and the movies that you can do whatever you want with them. You can make them any personality you want, and it's not going to go against any canon. So people always work with them more so than you do with like Ron and Hermione,
Yes.
who you leave pretty stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Fuck around with the people that don't have development.
yeah. So Gandalf's real name is Olerin, right? So Gandalf became his name after Olerin. Olerin was what he was called for a long time. Some Harfoots, which are hobbits but not hobbits because they're not hobbits in this, but they're Harfoots, which is like kind of like a distant cousin or like basically the hobbits like great grandfathers and stuff like that. So the Harfoots had just decided at the end of the second season that they were going to start calling him Grand because he was big, Elf because he looked like an elf. So it started off as Grand Elf, and that is how they told us that it was Gandalf. To add to that, we now have a dark wizard who is around there. And we don't know the dark wizard's name yet. He looks like Saruman. Looks a lot like Saruman, who came at the same time as Gandalf to Middle-earth. But here's the issue. Gandalf didn't know that Saruman went bad by Sauron's influence until the Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah.
So how do we have a dark wizard that Gandalf knows is bad?
Like thousands of years before he should?
and we've been confirmed that he's an Astari. So either he's a random blue wizard,
That went bad.
or it's Saruman and you just pissed a lot of people off.
Oh, that show's gonna be so bad.
And there's 5 seasons of it.
Oh, they've confirmed 5 seasons of it.
Confirmed 5 seasons. They're committed.
That's painful.
It's painful. Also, Gandalf never went to the east. He's traveling to the east right now. He never went to the east. I'm pissed. I'm so mad. But this is my conspiracy.
Okay.
Because this is like happening with so many pieces of content. We had a writer's strike last year in 2023.
Yep.
There were some laws that had come out, basically that you're giving all the writers a raise, that they get like more protection of employment, and there was a piece on AI tools, basically saying that you can't use AI for source material. You need to give that to the writers. But producers can make a decision to use AI to support with their screenwriting and stuff like that. I wonder if we're seeing a really, really big learning curve with AI tools like ChatGPT and screenwriting right now.
Oh, because you did mention that the screenwriters on this are like first time, have absolutely no credits backing them that are worth mentioning.
Yeah, like for Rings of Power, the 2 screenwriters had nothing else on their resume. They're first time screenwriters. The one was an uncredited screenwriter on Star Trek in 2016 or 2017. That is their whole resume. How did they get this job, first of all? Like, I'm
For
just gonna.
$1 billion project.
Like, I'm like probably nepotism in some fashion, but I even did some looking and I couldn't really find any connections, which would be difficult to do because people with money.
You can hide that.
Yeah, they're very, very private. But I'm going to guess a little bit of nepotism, but I wonder if we're seeing a huge learning curve with AI tools.
Yeah, and writers who would be pretty willing to turn a blind eye to it, to just do it.
Especially because out of that writer's strike, we saw like they had to give their screenwriters a raise. So producers are going to be like, heck yes, use AI tools if it's going to save time because then I have to pay you less.
Yep.
If it's going to save them time after they just got a raise. This is just my conspiratorial brain going, but
I wonder if you could fiddle with something like ChatGPT enough to get it to spit out the script for Rings of Power.
you absolutely could.
Just
And like I use things like ChatGPT at work or like when you're doing resumes and stuff, you know when you look at that stuff, it's going to spit something out that makes sense, but you need to edit it. It's not
oh yeah.
We're not in a perfect world right now where it replicates a human.
No. I use it for my Instagram content. I'll do like my bios in there. I'll have it edit it for grammar and style for me all the time.
Right.
But I still have to review it to make sure it makes sense for the context of the post.
Yeah, so part of me is wondering if we're seeing a really big learning curve with that because when there's a plot point with like, oh, Venom needs to become Venom because he needs to dance, and then that's how we're going to get this alien to Las Vegas. Like, what human comes up with that and says that's going to be great, everyone's going to love seeing him dance with Mrs. Chen? Like, yeah, maybe, but make it make sense.
Yeah, because there's like no plan going into that either. It's not like, oh, we're gonna lure them here and then like take them to this base or like find a way to kill them. He's just like, we're gonna dance, and that's the entire thought process that went behind that.
Yeah,
which was insane.
So that's what I think is happening.
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's way cheaper than paying people to do it,
And it's still so new.
and it's so new, and it takes time for those things to learn how to mimic people.
Yeah,
and they wouldn't know that yet.
it makes me sad.
It is depressing.
Yeah. Anyways, that's not what this episode is about.
No, this is our interlude.
I really needed to vent about it. I'm angry.
That's fair.
Ugh.
Venom was painful.
Venom was bad.
And
so if you see Venom, like, go give it a bad review. I'm mad that people are liking this movie.
If you liked Venom, tell us why. Like, if it's just like campy good time, sure, whatever. I just want more out of it though, because Venom is one of my favorite anti-heroes of all time, and like the whole series was kind of disappointing, but like this was exceptionally disappointing as the last one.
And we all have our own opinions. Like I'm not gonna. No judgment to people who enjoyed it by any means, but yeah, I want to know why, and I just think that there was so much more potential to do something that just made sense and that was fun and
Did service to the characters that you were
yeah,
saying goodbye to.
I know. I still cried.
You did still cry. I knew you were. You had to sit beside Abby this time, not me.
She was just laughing and she's like, I'm sorry, I'm trying to be nice. I'm like, dude, I just can't control it.
The second there was a memory montage, I was like, oh,
Oh
Haley's
no.
gone.
And that memory montage was so out of place and stupid and it still got me.
I did, yeah, it's still, especially, I'm sorry. Why was it to Maroon 5's memories? That part, it probably would have had more of an emotional impact on me if I wasn't sitting there going, why are we still listening to Maroon 5? It's 2024. He's been
Okay.
fully fucking canceled at this point.
I actually looked this up, and it's because I think at this point in Sony's 668 or 688 universe, I think that this is set in 2018, which means that this song would have like just come out,
Oh, God.
but still, like anything else.
Anything else? Also, that song is objectively just bad.
And then like what was the ending? He just like now him and Venom are no longer. I was very upset when he woke up without Venom. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
that
that's
hurts.
sad.
Because again, the only really good thing about this whole series was Tom Hardy and Venom
Venom.
together. That was the only good thing. So I got sad. But then he just like went to the Eiffel Tower and that was it. And now he's living a normal life. Like there was he has no money even though
No job.
even though he got like exonerated, is that the right word?
Yeah.
He got exonerated and like pardoned of all of his crimes. That is still out there. Like he's still public enemy number 1. He's
Yeah.
not going to get a journalism job. He has no money. Like the end.
No prospects.
And then they were like, "Oh, remember when we didn't follow up on anything that happened with Null? Let's just put a post-credit scene that kind of says that he'll be back."
Yeah. But like not anytime soon because he's still in prison.
Cuz and there's no codex anymore.
Yeah,
So then what was the whole point of the codex if there's going to be another way for him to get out? Sorry. If please tell me why you like this movie if you did. I'm struggling.
we really need someone to convince us that there was a redeeming quality in this.
So we also read fanfic.
Yep. Sure did.
We read Twilight fanfic.
I know, which was a first for me.
Oh, you've never read Twilight fanfic?
I don't think so.
I mean, neither have I, but that's like
not
not
like
surprising.
not extensively. Not anything that ended up popular or finished, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty surprised this one ended up popular.
Yeah. That one was, you know, I don't know. We have an episode coming up at some point. That one was more painful.
The one that I'm gonna read?
No. The Cassandra Clare one.
Oh yeah, I have not made much progress on that one.
I'm on the second one.
Good for you, honestly.
And just for context, Cassandra Clare's Mortal Instruments series is allegedly based off of her fanfic series, which is a Draco one, and does weird love triangle bullshit. Whatever.
Yeah.
It is painful to get through. I hate love triangles.
Don't we all?
I hated it in Mortal Instruments, hated it in the fanfic, but I'm really struggling to see where these two overlap because I'm gonna be freaking honest, the weird incest one made more sense still.
Right? Because we did a whole episode on where the title of the Mortal Instruments came from, and it came from an incestuous Harry Potter fanfiction.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I'm halfway through the first one maybe, and I still don't really understand. So.
Like I don't get it. That one made more sense to me. The incest and the name were there. This time, none of that's currently present, and I'm confused.
Okay. Well, that's interesting because that is a vast difference than the one that we went through this week. And I guess what we kind of recently have been pigeonholing ourselves into is the fact that there are a lot of series that have gotten a ton of fan fiction, and that is where people are creating actual books from. Like publishing deals are coming from fan fictions of some of our, I don't want to say favorite, most beloved childhood series.
Yeah, some of the most iconic series of all time are generating some of the most popular books of all time.
Yeah, and I mean, it's happening right now. We just did an episode on manacles that's becoming alchemized.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and these fanfics are really, really difficult to find because a lot of these publishing deals include getting rid of them from the face of the internet.
Yep.
And so we found one um, that was a Twilight fan fiction
Yep.
called Edward Wallbanger.
I'm really proud of myself for finding that one too.
And what Edward Wallbanger is about. It takes all of the characters from the Twilight series, and I guess spoilers for all of this too. Spoilers for the fanfic. Spoilers for the fanfic. I'm not going to go into that. Bella is a interior designer, and
Yep.
she is just moving in to her new apartment that she is subletting from her boss, Esme. And she had a terrible sexual experience a couple months back, 5 or 6 months back, or something like that, with Mike, who we all know as the weird, awkward high school kid from Twilight,
That tries to ask her out.
a million times.
Yeah.
She had a terrible sexual experience with him, and she lost her orgasm. And she hasn't been able to orgasm since, no matter what she does.
Yeah, it's been like 6 months. It was an insane amount of time.
It was an insane amount of
I
time.
did feel bad for her. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. And she refers to it as her O. And she also talks to her O quite a lot
Yeah.
during the fanfic. And so as she's moving in, that same night that she moves in, she apparently shares a bedroom wall with the lovely human next door who has a harem of ladies every week that just comes over and he bangs very, very loudly.
Aggressively.
And she finds out that his name is Edward through one of the women screaming.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I shouldn't say screaming. It didn't sound bad. It was just like
Yeah, they're having a really good time over there.
Yeah.
She was a screamer.
Oh, Edward.
Yeah.
And so she nicknames him Edward Wallbanger. And this is an entire book with just the characters from Twilight and her journey to rediscovering her O.
Yep.
And that's pretty much the whole plot. Let's just be...
Yeah, there's not a lot happening there, which I have notes on, don't get me wrong. Because I think the story had potential and pieces. And again, it's fanfic and people are just fucking around doing their thing. That's fine. But when it got published, I was like, we didn't decide to make this a little bit better?
No, because so what we were really interested in is how this goes from being Twilight to Twilight fanfic, then to published book. That's kind of like the what we're kind of interested in how that goes,
Yeah.
because generally the published book, you can't see the origin by then. It's usually completely different. The issue that I have with this is that the fanfic didn't resemble Twilight at all.
No.
And we kind of experienced this with Allie Hazelwood's too, with Head Over Feet, that got turned into a love hypothesis because it was Raylo fanfic, Ray and Kylo, but the characters were completely taken out of the world. And so, like, was it actually Star Wars fanfic at that point? So that's what I'm, like, I guess that's my question. Is this considered Twilight fanfic?
I don't know. And, like, I'll say, again, we talked about this at the beginning of the episode, all I've done for almost 2 months now is read fanfic.
Mm-hmm.
But I've exclusively been reading, like, in-universe fanfic. Even if it's alternate universe, like, there's still magic, they're still doing their thing that they would have been doing in in Harry Potter to some degree. But, like, these ones that take the characters out and just put them into other universes, I don't know. One, I don't think I like it, personally. I don't put that there as a bias right off the bat. I don't enjoy it. I feel like it just... If they're not vampires, why am I here?
I just don't get it. Because, especially with some of these books, like, Harry Potter had really good character development. So if you were to take out the world, could you maybe create characters such as Hermione that resemble Hermione in the books and go with that for fanfic? Yeah, maybe. But I need to feel that character is present in them in order to feel the fanfic.
Yeah.
Or, like, the actual history of what happened. So like Hermione, for example, huge book nerd. She's kind of like a know-it-all. She has these character traits that make her her. So if you took her out and maybe put her in another situation, if I can still feel that Hermione is there, maybe that her history has kind of lined up with what has happened, sure,
Yeah,
maybe.
more amicable to that.
But when you completely take them out of the world, it's harder to do that, especially with something like Twilight, where every single one of these characters basically had no personality.
None. And they were really reliant on the vampire thing to really make them stand out as individuals.
And even if they did have personality, they all sucked. So who would want to create a story out of that?
Yeah, they were not good
Like
people.
Bella's like lip biting and her like hair flopping like this all the time. Like you want to make a story out of that? That's weird.
Yeah, or her weird stuttering.
There just
Or
needs to be
clumsiness.
vampires.
Like, yeah, you need vampire. And then Edward's just a creepy dude who stares all the time. Like, he didn't have very much of a personality.
No, and there was a couple of things. So like Alice, for example, when they were driving to a party, she had said like I have a really good feeling about tonight. I just have a feeling that something really great is going to happen. There was kind of this like I can see into the future kind of feeling.
Yeah.
And then there was one point where Edward had mentioned that he's not 17 anymore and like just made a reference to the fact that they were 17 in the fanfic. That's literally the only two pieces that I actually brought out of this.
There was a direct quote, too.
Oh, was there? Which one was it?
Say it out loud.
Oh my god. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's right. I do remember that.
Which did
So,
not translate into the published book, I checked.
nice, nice. So like there's kind of hints of it, but I don't know. I feel like in order for it to be fan fiction, because this was its own story.
It was totally unique. Like, you could have swapped out their names, which they did to publish it, and had a perfectly coherent-ish story.
Yeah.
Like, it was a story.
So why do it?
Yeah, I don't get that. I'm really curious if any fanfic writers who are watching this and can explain it though, because like I'm actually super curious as to like what the motivation is behind just using the names but not the characters to
Right?
write content to put on fanfic sites.
Because the only thing that I really saw that was transferred over, there was a couple of those things that like referenced the books or whatnot, the character names and then their descriptions. So like Alice was like a tiny like lady, Bella like look they all looked I think the same as they did
Mm-hmm.
in the books. But other than that it was its own holistic story. The only thing that I can really think of is there actually a career pathway of writing fanfic and there being a marketing strategy and like being able to highlight it as Twilight fanfic or Harry Potter fanfic that like publishers go look for. I don't know what that
Oh,
looks like and
maybe.
then that almost like gains traction.
Yeah. That makes me want to dive into the Olivia Black or Olivia Blackie as per her pen name because she just started with Dramini fic, but none of like it hasn't been officially said that any of her Dramini fic has been converted into books.
Mhm.
For the record, this is the author of the Alice Six.
Okay.
Like, but she's used plot points and sections out of her Dramini in her books.
Yeah.
But now I'm really curious, like, did she get published because her Hermione fics were so good and so popular that they're like, do you want a book deal instead of just like make this fanfic into a book?
Yeah,
Like,
cuz I can see the like the desire to do fanfic to like hone a craft or like I love the idea of having this creative outlet of ooh I loved this series and now I want to I have another idea of where that series could go um
yeah.
and I see these characters doing elsewhere or I don't think the author did what I would have done and I want to try it this way. I love that idea about fanfic where you get to hone your craft and you get to practice and you get to explore and be creative. I love that portion of it. But when it becomes this like Allie Hazelwood is kind of the same where it's like you just take them out of the world, you don't really keep the same character traits. They just look the same and there are two characters that you thought would be good together and you put them in a totally other scenario. Is it still create is that still like I just don't really see how that becomes fanfic of that specific thing.
Yeah. I don't know. And I've been like Allie Hazelwood's was easier to get through. I actually liked Head Over Feet. Like I
Me
enjoyed it
too.
as a story. It was well written.
Yeah, me too.
It was good. it just like it wasn't Star Wars.
At all.
Like they kind of had more of their personalities in this one, that's for sure.
Agreed.
And they had like a little bit more of their backstories.
Yeah.
But like this one was nothing. Like we didn't
Right.
even hear like his parents were dead. I don't remember anything about her parents, if there even was.
Yeah. Like Esme and Carlisle were kind of mentors to them both, but it wasn't
They were just
but
like
like
there.
Bella knew Esme and Edward knew Carlisle. Like there were totally separate. It was, yeah, it was weird. It to me it was a net new story, which is
Yeah.
again fine. Like it
Yeah.
worked as a book, it worked as a story. The writing actually wasn't terrible. I just struggle with like what the motivation to do it is.
Yeah, I
Or
don't
if
know.
there is none, I don't know.
Yeah, like I'm so curious. This is not my thing, but yeah, because I was like, when I read fanfic, I want to go back into the world I left,
Mhm.
and, like see it in a new perspective. But for me, this was just like, okay, it's Bella, it's Edward, and they're doing literally nothing I liked them for
Yeah.
the first time around.
There are way more fanfics that have been turned into published books than I think both of us initially realized. It's kind of a whole thing.
Yeah, like there's so many,
So many. And so
and we're going into all them blind too, because this is becoming an entire series. And I'm so curious to see if more of the ones we have on the docket are more in world
I
or
would
out
like to
world.
read more in world stuff because I
Yeah.
think that's what's fun for me because I'm a fantasy girl. I like my
Yes.
fantasy. I like the magic systems and stuff. And oftentimes, when it comes especially to these romantasy type books, the world building is more important than the character development. If you take a lot of these characters out of the world, like this fanfic did, it kind of loses the excitement about it because then he just becomes a broody asshole like every other romantasy man,
Yep.
and she becomes a personality-less, lonely, strong, independent girl.
Yeah. Who does nothing.
Those are the two personality traits that you get in romantasy.
Yep. With none of the
That's really
backbone.
sad. That was kind of a realization that I just made right now. Bummer.
Yep.
But I'm like going through them. I'm like thinking like Throne of Glass, Fourth Wing.
They're all behind me.
Yeah.
This is the romantasy section. But it's totally true.
It's
Like,
so true.
even for Raven Kennedy's Plated Prisoner series, very similar archetypes. Broody, Shadow Daddy, trying to be independent, uppity, pretty girl.
Ugh,
Great
hate
series,
that.
though. Still recommend. But,
Well, because it's the magic. Like the
yeah.
magic and the excitement of the world is what draws you into those. And so yeah, I'm really curious about the whole how fanfic authors get published because it's got to be some sort of, there's so many of them, it's got to be
So
some sort
many.
of system that maybe there's like a submission process that they can go to publishers and submit work that they've done, or maybe publishers actually spend some time on things like AO3 and Wattpad and look at popular ones.
My thing, though, and don't get me wrong, like, Love Hypothesis slash Head Over Feet and Edward Wallbanger slash Wallbanger are both old.
Yeah.
Like, the published versions and the fanfic versions are fairly old.
Yeah, 2011 or something like that.
Yeah. And I think even for Love Hypothesis, that's been out for quite some time.
Almost 10 years probably.
So, like, maybe it was a thing they did more back then.
Maybe.
Because, I'm sorry, but out of the, I shit you not, almost probably 40 fanfics I read in the past 2 months, neither of these would have been the ones I picked as the people to publish.
Yeah.
Like, there are so many. Like, obviously, Sinlin Yu is getting published. Thank God.
Well deserved.
The author for the auction is getting published. Also, thank God. And
Okay.
she's adapting the auction into something. Don't know
Okay.
what. We'll read that one later for you. Which also the auction's like very heavily influenced by Manifold, so they're
Okay.
really good. But then I'm like, there's so many of these other ones I read were so good and so well done, and then I read these and I was like, this is painful.
Do we think it's nepotism?
And it's gotta be something. Or maybe these were just, well, I don't think some of the ones I've been reading are like super old, like pre Half-Blood Prince publishing
Oh wow.
of fanfic, or like pre Deathly Hallows, like they were published between Half-Blood Prince and Deathly
Mm.
Hallows, and the authors like make notes are like, hey, that one didn't come
Yeah.
out by the time when I read or when I wrote this, so like
Whatever.
it is what it is. And they're really good. So I'm like, I don't understand how these are the ones you picked.
Interesting.
I want to know the publisher's thought process where they're like this fanfic. This is the
Yeah.
one that everyone wants to read as a
Yeah.
published book.
Huh.
Or maybe it is because they take the characters out of the world and the publishers are like, sick
Yeah.
fan base, copy paste, change some names, pump that shit out.
Some of them might be self-published too. That's only gotten popular though, I think somewhat recently, or have they always done
Um,
self-publishing?
no, I think self-publishing is definitely gotten much more popular
Yeah.
recently. I think the other thing too is like Wattpad has its own publishing house now. So I'm pretty sure,
Oh, is that how After got published?
yeah, was through, and I've done arc reading for Wattpad's publishing house before, and like some of them have been pretty good, don't get me wrong. And obviously I love fanfic,
Yeah.
but like I think that's how some of this is getting published too, is just purely on popularity.
Well, and you know what? I think popularity is a good point because even to our point with Venom and Rings of Power, people like these shows a lot. And corporate America, they want to make money. They want to make money off of the books that they sell, off the fans that they already have. So when something's popular, they see the big bucks when it comes to actually publishing something or making a movie deal out of something. And so I wonder if, because like I feel like I'm almost in the minority with some of these things when I say I don't like something like Rings of Power or Venom, and then you see this huge fan base who loved watching them, and Amazon is like saying it's the top 5 most watched TV show of all time. Like there's obviously something that people like in them. And so I almost feel like I'm in the minority, so it like encourages them to keep going.
Yeah, which they really shouldn't with Venom
No.
and Rings of Power. Unfortunately, you're stuck with, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's stuff like this one because like, and I this book fanfic to published is a copy paste. The way they brought down the page count was by removing his point of view.
Mhm.
I don't think they cut any scenes. I like there was nothing that I really picked up on that was like a big change. I think the only thing that I saw that, and this is one of my gripes with both the fanfic and the published version for plot, was instead of her ex having like, because it was in someone else's point of view,
Yeah.
where her ex is like, we should go get Vietnamese food, and she's like, I want Thai food, and then he's
Yeah.
like, well, no, I really want Vietnamese food, and she like caves immediately. He's like, okay, let's go get Vietnamese food, because they talked about him being like that kind of somewhat emotionally abusive ex who could like just manipulate her into doing
And
whatever
she
he
was a huge
wanted.
pushover
And yeah,
when
she
it
would
came
just
to
do
him.
it.
Yeah.
That conversation moved, instead of her friends and boss seeing them do that, was just in her hallway, and Simon saw it slash Edward
Right, and he just
instead.
saw them do that. And also, by the way, in this fanfic, James was her ex-boyfriend.
Yeah,
Like we completely removed them from this world.
yeah, they did nothing. And they didn't change his name for the published book either, which I thought was
Yeah,
so
it was
funny.
still James.
It was still James. Everyone else who had the like, aside from Esme and Bella, like you probably could have kept Edward's name the same.
Yeah, probably.
You probably could have,
Nobody would have known.
yeah, like switched some of the other characters maybe for their unique names, but like they all have pretty basic white people names. You didn't need to change them.
No.
But yeah, I thought that was the only main plot point that changed. Otherwise, this is a copy paste and then
Well, the other reason it got shortened
cleaned
too is
it.
because of the fanfic, just the formatting.
Yeah, the
Like they would
formatting.
do a lot of spaces if somebody was talking or like texting and stuff. So those are the only two things that made it shorter. Like the fanfic was almost 600 pages.
Yeah.
And then the published book was 366 or something.
Yeah, and they also had all their like fanfic notes in there too, which
Yeah.
took up quite a few pages.
Oh, I loved skipping through those. I was like, great, 4 pages of fanfic author notes. Get me out.
Don't need to see this. I'm not reading live. It's fine. I don't care if you're gonna go on hiatus for 2 months. Moving on. Yeah, so like that was the biggest change between them, other than the point of view drops, and then they just moved any of that content a little bit or dropped it entirely.
Mhm.
But I feel like where this really missed the mark, and I was really disappointed in the published version where it didn't pick it up, was they could have made James more contentious and more of a problem as the main kind of
Yeah.
like tension in the book and like what was going to cause a problem because that's what it lacked. Like it was basically just them. It was kind of boring. It was boring.
The the way that I see this, yes, there were other characters like Rosalie and Alice were finding their men and they kind of like had to swap men because they were with the wrong men. Like there were some other things going on here. The whole situation though, like the actual plot arc was Bella losing her orgasm and refinding it.
Yeah. Which don't get me wrong, not a bad story to have as like your thing to
Yeah.
go from point A to point B. Could be pretty empowering. Maybe see a therapist. They specialize in that. But like you couldn't give me some
Other
substance in there.
tension,
I
yeah.
hated the boyfriend swap too. I thought it was so dumb, and I was so looking forward to that not being in the published books. I was like, "There's no way a publisher was like, this is a good idea." Still there.
Well, and especially like it was listen, I'm all for like healthy communication in relationships. And what ended up happening was in the fanfic and the published book, Alice met Emmett as like her dream boy, and then Rosalie met Jasper, which is obviously not the way that it works out in
Yeah,
Twilight. And right off the bat, they were immediately kind of attracted to the other one. Like Alice should have been with Jasper and Rosalie should have been with Emmett, and they got along better. So throughout the times that they were dating, they still remained with like Alice with Emmett and Rosalie with Jasper, but they would only go on dates together because the opposite liked to see each other. So eventually Bella was just like, "What the hell, you guys? You were with the wrong people. Go and do that." And then they were like, "Oh, you're so right. Okay."
while on
Well,
vacation,
on vacation.
on like a double couple date, and then just Bella and Edward being awkward in the corner.
And then from there it was fine, which again, super healthy. In real life, that's the ideal way for that to go. In a book, I want drama.
Yeah,
I want tea.
screaming.
I want jealousy. I want someone to punch someone in the face. Like, I want it to blow up. I want chaos.
Yeah, fight it out.
Nothing happened.
It was way too amicable. Like that also could have been the contention. I'd wanted it gone entirely because I thought it was stupid, but
Just something. Like, James could have been
anything.
the jealous ex. He couldn't, like, because he was the exact same. He was just like, she was like, "You're not the guy for me." And he was like, "I know, I'll find it some way." And then she was like, "Look, here's Victoria, a random person that I just found to help you with your house design." And then they fell in love immediately, and that was it.
Yeah. Like he could have been stalking her, he could have been sending her threatening letters, he could have been anything.
That would have
Anything.
even come from Twilight. Like,
I know.
bring some of the character traits from
I
Twilight.
was like, I'll give anything for this guy to be more a problem. So that Edward has to like fight him off or like call the cops, like literally anything. I was so desperate.
It was so boring.
And
There
I
was
was
just
holding out
nothing. Yeah, there
in the
was
published one.
nothing.
I was like, please,
Yeah.
for the love of God.
And then it got made into a movie.
Yeah. Which I didn't even make it through the trailer. I was like, I heard her texting at like 9 o'clock last night, 8 o'clock. I was like, no, I'm done. I'm out. This is it. We usually do the movie if there's a movie. I wasn't doing it.
Well, because I had, so on the cover of the book, it was like Passion Flicks original. And I was like, Passion Flicks? That's good. I was like, no, no way. And I Googled it, which looking back on that now, that was a risky Google.
Yeah,
But
that was a risky. Should have been on incognito mode.
but I Googled Passion Flicks and I was like, oh, this is like a weird movie streaming site, whatever. You
Yeah.
probably know what it is better than I do. And I was like, okay. And then I looked it up, and sure enough, this published book got made into a movie. And so I watched the trailer. She made it through halfway through the trailer. And it is a copy paste version from the book. Like the lines were the same, the whole plot, it was all the same. It was she had a wall banging neighbor who had a lot of sex. She lost her orgasm. They hated each other, and then they didn't hate each other, and then she found her orgasm again. Spoiler alert, she found her orgasm again.
Wow. Yeah, Passion Flicks is like this era's direct-to-TV Hallmark kind of romance thing. I've
Right.
seen a couple other romance authors that do more mainstream stuff that are really big, get like TV shows and stuff made on there. I've never watched any of it because as much as I like a good campy film, I do appreciate some level of acting
Yeah.
in the things I consume,
Yeah.
and that didn't look like it had any.
It didn't. It was a copy paste. There was no no creative decisions. Not that I watched it. I couldn't. But like one of the plot points in the book was that the first night that Edward was having sex and was being really loud, the painting fell on her head, and like the first scene or one of the first scenes in the trailer was this painting falling on her head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It I promise it doesn't deviate from the book. I watched half of a trailer for this and I can already tell you it was exactly the same.
It's the same.
And you know what? They didn't really need to change anything because nothing in here is complex or really
Was
requires thought.
There was no plagiarism either from Twilight.
Zero.
Other than the names, and even then, you probably could have gotten away with
Yeah,
it.
honestly, what were they gonna do?
Yeah.
You really liked Jasper and Emmetta's names? That's go wild.
I know.
Although I did find the rebranding for Jasper really funny.
The glasses?
No, where
Oh.
he's like a
Philanthropist?
philanthropist?
Philanthropist.
There we go. Where he's not a crazy racist Confederate soldier anymore.
Oh, yeah. That was a good creative decision.
Yeah. Like, nice. Well done. And then I also thought it was really funny, and I don't know if at the time of this fanfic's publishing this would have been common knowledge, but for the movies for Twilight, the director really wanted to make Alice Asian because it made more sense for her personality and her like body type, like the way it was described. And I remember Stephanie Meyer allegedly, I'm not saying anything as absolutes, threw an absolute fucking fit because the way vampires are written in Twilight is like the perfect physique is white. So she's like she can't be Asian because she would have to be pale. So like she threw like a whole fit so that Alice couldn't be Asian in the movies, and the only reason Laurent is black is because he's a bad guy, allegedly. And she was okay with that. Barely.
But hold up. There were Asian vampires in the movies.
If you look at their physical descriptions though, all of their skin tones are insanely pale for their ethnicities.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do remember noticing that.
Like even for Laurent, he's described as olive skinned, but he is a black man. But a black man is not olive skinned.
So what was her plan here? Was she just like sorry, I'm just not understanding like the magic in this world. Like were people of color just not
They weren't the ideal physical look.
so they just couldn't become vampires? Was the Volturi just like super racist and was like
No, they
if
could
you
become vampires. They would just become white for the ultimate physical look. Yeah, word on the street is Stephanie Meyer is potentially very racist, allegedly. So therefore, the vampires would all just become white
Oh my
or
god.
very pale for their skin tone.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I watch a lot of deep lore Twilight stuff on Instagram.
So Alice just could not
Alice could not be Asian because she wasn't a bad guy, and they'd have to make her look really fucking weird. So I thought it was really funny in the published version when the publisher switched her to Asian to make there be some form of
Right.
diversity in this friend group. I was like, this is so fucking ironic.
Yeah, that's so funny.
I
I
really
wonder
enjoyed
I
that.
hope that was a pointed decision.
I hope it was too, because of all the characters to switch ethnicities for, it made sense. And I think that one of the characters was also made Middle Eastern of some kind, but I can't remember exactly. I really skimmed through that fast.
Isn't the kind of the collective agreement that Stephanie Myers isn't a great person in general at this point?
Yes.
That being one of the reasons?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. I believe there are other things along the way. The beige on beige crime in the books is a really big thing because she's a member of the Mormon church, so all the clothing is like, if you actually pay attention to what people are wearing throughout this, is so weird. Yeah, you can Google that and find it on Instagram and stuff if you want visuals. But yeah, like there's a lot of things about Stephanie Meyer that people don't particularly like. One of which is white is apparently peak human aesthetic.
Gross.
Yeah. And I was like, it was so funny too because people are like, well, wouldn't their hair bleach out too then? Like if you're gonna rip all the color out of them, then like they'd also
Maybe
all
she
have blue
recognized she would
eyes
have been
and
getting in hot water at that point. They had to be white and blonde hair, blue eyes only. She probably knew where she was headed with that.
yeah. So she like
Someone
took it.
probably sat her down and was like, "Hey, listen."
I get the pale thing. You
I...
can kind of swing that, but the Aryan's taking it too far. No master race allowed. Yeah, who knows?
Oh my god.
But yeah, so I thought that was hilarious in the published books. I was
Yeah,
like
that's excellent.
wonderfully pointed.
Mhm.
Um, what else did I also wrote down because there was the direct quote from the books. I was like, there really should have been a moment through the wall where he said, "Better hold on tight, Spider Monkey," while he was banging somebody.
Oh yeah, that would have been great. See, those are things that I think would have made me appreciate this as a fanfic
Yeah,
more. But what is the line? What is the line for it not becoming fanfic?
I don't know. I'm really curious what the audience thinks on this one though. Like,
To me, fanfic needs to be a little bit plagiarized.
yeah, absolutely. Like one of the books I just finished, the last chapter coincided with the last chapter of Half Blood Prince, and she's like, italicized portions are copy pasted out of the book,
Right.
and then there would be non italicized pieces like in it to denote where she was changing it to match her narrative a little bit.
Yeah.
But I was like, I was totally happy with that. It made
Right.
sense. It tied it together. Story moving on.
Because if I'm going to
Absolutely.
fanfic, I want to continue to live the experience of. I don't see this being fanfic unless you're doing a ton of references to the source material, keeping the
Yeah.
names, keeping like really specific character traits, then sure. But this was just like, let me take some names from a book that I know about and put it into a story that has nothing to do with it. And maybe sort of reference the source material once, but you actually have to really think on it.
Yeah, like of all the quotes I would have picked for, and Bella says it too. It's not him.
I Yes, because I remember this now.
Yeah,
Yes.
where she's like, say it out loud. Or
Yeah.
say it out loud, whatever the fuck the quote
Right.
is. And I was like, this one really?
Especially,
Spider Monkey.
yeah, especially like the most iconic quote. Like, do you know how many times people have just rewatched that scene because it's so
So
bad in the
funny.
movies and so funny? Like, make it funny in the book. Make it a
Yeah,
very clear, like, this is a rewrite of this scene.
yeah.
She just took a phrase.
And I'm sorry, that one works great for having sex.
Yeah,
That whole
it does.
scene could be rewritten as a sex scene,
Yeah.
no problem.
You should write fanfic.
No one wants that.
I don't know about that. I don't know, but I think there's an audience for it.
For for my Twilight rewrite, but it's just campy sexy. Oh man, that'd be hilarious. Uh but yeah, no, they're like I wish more had changed. I wish there'd been more Twilight.
More Twilight. Yeah, agreed.
And like it wasn't a bad book, it was a boring book.
It was very boring.
But it wasn't like poorly written or
No,
like anything like that.
yeah.
Like there was some kind of motivation happening. It's just like I don't know how this has almost was it 3.98% or 3.98 out of 5 on Goodreads with almost 210,000 reviews.
210,000
And I was like, and like people, they really love this book. And I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that most of these reviews were a decade old.
yeah.
And these kinds of like romancy books up here and even back there didn't really exist at that time. So I feel like some of the standards might have been like a little different. Like that would have been more like bodice rippers and cowboys era of romance versus like our
and like
modern
Twilight era, to be fair.
Yeah, Twilight.
Yeah, because it actually, the writing style was actually kind of fun, and I kind of liked the banter as well.
Yeah.
The dirty talk I was not down with. I thought the dirty talk was kind of cringy.
I think I skipped through those sex scenes. I'm gonna be so real.
Yeah, but
And like the ones
banter
through
was
the wall
okay.
were funny.
Yes.
Like I liked that everyone was like kind of distinct and unique. Like
Yeah.
those sex scenes through the wall were hilarious.
Super funny. Yeah.
But yeah, like I feel like the time that this was written was also kind of indicative of the kind of content we were getting.
I actually think it would have been better if it wasn't marketed as a Twilight fan fiction.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have had such high expectations to what, or preconceived notions as to what the characters were.
Yeah.
Because let's be real, vampires are just more interesting than regular people.
And I like he could have been a vampire.
Right?
Like
Imagine if that was the case. Like,
he could have been
Bella was
going
a normal
away.
girl, she was an interior designer, and all of a sudden she hears like crazy vampire sex going on in the room behind her, but she doesn't know that it's crazy vampire sex until this. And then there was a whole thing about him not being able to go out in the daylight, and they weren't able to go get coffee as far like,
Yeah, her being like, "What the heck's going on?" And then the crazy boyfriend comes over and he's like trying to hit her or force her, and he like breaks in and eats him.
right?
Vampires.
Hit us with the vampires. If it's being marketed as Twilight fan fiction, I expect vampires, and
Yeah.
I expect it to be a little campy too,
Yeah.
which this was. It
It
gave me
was.
campy,
It was cute, campy.
yes, but I want vampires in there.
Yeah. As far as the book goes, if you want campy, kind of cozy, I don't know, romancy stuff, like I wouldn't say don't read it.
No,
Well,
and it's fun.
it was fun.
It was fun. It was this like adult kind of sexy, campy, cute
Well,
love story.
yeah, it
I
wasn't
didn't
bad.
hate it.
I just, after reading the fanfic and the published book, I wanted more out of it.
Yeah.
Don't read the fanfic. You can skip that
Yes.
entirely.
Skip the fanfic for all
Unless
of
you
our
want
sakes.
his point of view, in which case, go for the fanfic.
Yeah, actually, was the fanfic better?
I'm kind of thinking about that now. I think for story wise, the fanfic was better with his point of view and some of the supporting characters' point of view.
Yeah,
I think the writing did get cleaned up for the published version, though. It was a little bit
right.
easier to read.
But I almost think that that's okay with fanfic because you go into the fanfic expecting that it is going to be a
Yeah.
bit messy, which is sometimes why it's easier to enjoy
Yeah.
because you forgive a lot of that stuff a lot easier and you're just kind of like, okay, I'm not going to judge this based on how it's written
Or
or
like
what all the
formatting.
grammar and stuff, and you just get to enjoy it for what it is. Uh, and it was I did like the dual POV. I like dual POV with
So much.
my romance books, but actually, okay, here's what I think that maybe we should check our bias on because I actually don't know the answer to this. I don't know if Edward or Simon in the published version, if his character development was good enough for it to still be good in the published version, and if you didn't have his POV, I wonder if he came across as like more of an asshole than he was. Because we had we understood what his POV was because we read the fanfic. I don't know if that came across in the book.
I still think it came across better than Love Hypothesis.
Yes.
I think
the removal of the dual POV and Love Hypothesis was criminal.
Yeah, that was a big detriment to that story because his point of view was actually really, really good and added quite a bit of depth to the story.
Well, he was a more interesting character than she was.
Yeah, he also had a personality, which was nice. In this one, I feel like she was talented enough to make him still a character with a personality and motivations. I think the somewhat polyamorous relationship really added to that.
I actually really liked the polyamory.
Yeah, I thought it was really well done, and I thought it added a lot to him as a person, like that you could
Yeah, you're
relate
probably right.
to.
Okay.
So I think that's how she got away with removing his POV and me not hating him because I like we did the same thing with Love Hypothesis, and I immediately was like, I don't like this guy anymore.
Yeah, totally.
So I think she did it better. But I do think like the male POV, it really bothers me when they take it out. But I do think that is also a result of when these were published.
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably right. And it's actually a really early time to be exploring polyamory in that way too, because it was a really good depiction of it. It was a good depiction of a healthy polyamorous situation that he'd kind of gotten himself into. What I think I would have liked, and I do feel kind of qualified to speak on this because I was in a polyamorous relationship for so long, I would have liked the challenges of the polyamory relationships explored a little bit more because it was kind of 100% positive. Like it was 100% everybody's really okay with the situation and really happy and like asking about each other, which I think is very true in those relationships. But the exit of him going from being polyamorous to monogamous was just like clean cut, easy tie off. Like the one girl was going back to school in Russia, the other girl had found the love of her life and broke it off, and then he broke it off with the last one or something like that.
Yeah.
And everybody was just
Okay.
Okay, which is fine, but he also like described actually caring for these girls really like a lot and having really unique relationships and like wanting the best for them and all of these things, and this Russian girl just being like, "Okay, bye, I'm off to school," with kind of no like.
Yeah, it did feel like he wasn't invested in them in any way, shape, or form. It was like, all right, now we're just not banging anymore. And like, we're done. And I kind of thought the British chick would put up more of a fight.
I know cuz
I was expecting there to be a little bit more tension there too.
yeah, and I think that this is also just a little bit of a qualm that I have with like media in general, where we just put in plot points just to keep it going along, where it was like at the beginning he was invested in these relationships and he cared about them and all of those things, and then by the end it was like, well, now we have to break this off, so they didn't actually care about each other as much as we initially thought. Whereas I really liked the depiction of the polyamory, where it was like, yes, you can care about more than one person at once, and you can have all of these relationships, and that is a possibility for some people. But yeah, like I felt like that was maybe a little bit disconnected just in the way that he broke off all those polyamorous relationships. Um, but I do think it did a relatively good job of it for it being like 2011.
Yeah, me too. And I almost think like potentially some of the reason why there wasn't any struggle with it was because of when it was published. Like he didn't want to paint those relationships in that
Yeah.
kind of light because they were going through quite a few struggles
Yes.
at that time.
Yeah. And that's not really what the book was about.
Yeah.
But I think to your point, it was really boring and it had the opportunity to bring in more complex themes and conflicts.
Yeah.
And that's just one of the places where it could have.
Yes. Yeah,
Like,
because I did notice that too when he broke it off. I was like, wow, that was awfully easy. And she was like, hey, bet we're good to go.
yeah. There
Let's
was,
go to
yeah.
Spain.
Like, it could have been James, it could have been the quadruple thruple type situation that Rosalie and Alice got
Yeah.
themselves into. It could have been Edward's relationships. Like anything could have just had a little bit more drama.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, it's fanfic that's getting published. I just can't believe that it had 210,000 reviews on it.
I know, and I couldn't find any information online. Granted, I didn't spend that much time searching yesterday. I really wanted to get back to my dreary smut fest. But I was like, I wanted to know how popular the fanfic itself had been before it was published, like how
Yeah.
many people had read it, because like things like After had billions of views. Love Hypothesis, millions of views. Manacled, also in the millions. So I was like, is this an example of maybe a fanfic that wasn't in that level of popular but still got published because it
Mm-hmm.
was decently popular and they found like a little publishing house to pick them up, or like was this in the context of millions?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's so different now than it was because viral is definitely coined a different term now in 2024, where like you need a million to like tens of millions of views to consider something viral.
Yeah.
Whereas back then, when the internet was kind of like still like just getting off the ground, like that's when teenagers were starting to get online and use Facebook. And like that was what, 4 or 5 years after Facebook became a thing?
Yeah, 2008
Yeah, so
ish.
3 or 4 years after Facebook became a thing, like we're looking at the first initial things of viral. We're looking at a lot less websites to be coming from.
Yep.
Like publishers now looking for something that went viral, you need to be blown up. But back then, you scroll through 5 or 6 pages and you're getting kind of the most popular things at the time. So
That's true.
it might just be a product of its time.
Which, for like, kudos to them.
Yeah.
Well done.
2010 to 2015 was the year of campy too. So
Very true. Also, just for the record, this was all written by Alice Clayton. I don't know if we've said her name yet. Sorry, Alice.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to you, Alice. I enjoyed your book.
Honestly, yeah, the fanfic I had a great time.
Yeah.
Just being like, this is wild.
I know.
The published one, again, the fallacy of the published ones every single time is we read them immediately after the fanfic.
Yeah.
And if they don't change very much, it's really boring.
Yeah, we've read it already.
So like we flip through those ones pretty quick.
But
I do have some on the docket though that I think had to have changed quite significantly, so we'll see.
right, okay, so moving forward, what we're gonna do is Daria has found some books that are quite widely popular, to my understanding.
A handful of them, yeah.
Yeah, that were from fanfic that the fanfic was based on like these iconic books like Twilight and things
Yep.
like that. Um, that she's gonna make me read the fanfic, and I'm gonna have to
Nope.
guess. Oh,
I'm reading you read the book.
you're making me read the book, and then I have to guess what
Fandom it's based on.
fandom the fanfic was based off of.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So I have a few contenders. I actually haven't read any of these either, so it should be interesting to see how separate it is. But yeah, I have a few books that were published from fanfics, and you have to guess which fandom they're based on.
Oh my god, I'm excited.
So those episodes will be two-parters. Part one will be your book review and guessing what fandom it is, and then
Yeah.
part two will be you reading the fanfic, and then
I feel like just because I have a feeling, and I think you're gonna be mad at me for the fact that I haven't watched this, I think I need to binge watch Supernatural to be part of this.
I only have one of those.
Okay, because I've never seen.
But you should binge watch Supernatural regardless, because it is one of the greatest TV shows of all time. All 15 seasons.
Is it like Vampire Diaries? That's just what I keep hearing, is that it's like Vampire Diaries.
No, it's a different kind of. The first, I want to say like 5 seasons of Supernatural are like really strong, very unique TV for the time. Even still, I feel like nothing's really captured that. And then it starts to progressively get more and more like outlandishly crazy. And they know, like, it's pretty self aware, outlandishly crazy.
Yeah.
But like, you're along for the ride at that point.
Okay.
Yeah. And they take, like, nothing is off limits either. They're like, God's here, God's fucking shit up, God's drunk in the corner. Like, it's hilarious. The devil's just like dancing on a table. They're prisoners, they're working with him, they're trying to kill him, they do kill him, he comes back to life. Sam and Dean die like 20 times each. It's a good time.
Okay, well, I guess I'm watching Supernatural as a 26-year-old woman. I am 15 years too late to the party.
Harry watched it last year. All of it.
Great. Well, do you have anything else to say on Wallbanger?
I do not.
Great. Okay, well, thank you everybody for listening to whatever that was. Daria, I think you should read some real books.
There's real books in there. I'm sorry. I cannot. Nothing in this world will make me give up Draco Malfoy. Nothing.
He's come so far from what he was in the books too. Like this character did not exist until fan fiction got a hold of him.
But he's so much better now, and honestly, I can't. He's currently the current one is he's got like a little soulmate thing going on with Harry. I'm very excited.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're having fun, but I do think you should read some real books at some point.
I told you, ARC team. All my audiobooks are real books. I'm still listening to a bunch of those too.
Okay. Good.
I didn't count them, but there has been a lot of those.
Good. Well, I'm glad. Enjoy Way of Kings. Way of Kings is like literature that will be good for for everyone.
It's going great.
Well, thanks everybody. I'll try and read something that is like won't test my sanity.
Yeah, good call.
I don't know what that would be.
Yeah, you're gonna have to figure something else out for that. You can take a perusal through the fantasy
That's
section.
not even gonna help a little bit.
Bridge Kingdom's good.
Yeah, this side will help me. That side scares me.
Yeah, there's romantasy up there. Lots of that.
Yeah, that will test my sanity. Okay, bye everybody. Thanks for listening.
You can catch us at Whimsically Wicked on TikTok, Instagram,
YouTube.
You can find
Spotify.
Oh yeah, Apple Podcasts.
Wherever you get your podcasts.
We try to put it everywhere. I'm Daria's Reading on Instagram, Goodreads, and TikTok. Not that I've touched any of those recently because I've been in too deep of a fanfic hole.
And I barely post on social media, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, the podcast is really getting all of our attention these days.
Yeah. Thanks everyone. See you in a couple weeks.